Hi, welcome back to the kitchen. It's the middle of winter, but oddly enough, this is a great time to start to plan on how you're going to preserve food this upcoming summer. Today we're going to talk a little bit about canning. You can plan to can things you grow in your garden. You can can things that you find on sale at the store and want to preserve, or you can can fresh produce that you buy locally at the farmer's market at the store when it's in season. So when I started canning, it was an uphill battle. There was so much to learn. So I thought I would share the few things that you need to get started canning, because it's really not as complicated as you might think. So first up, you need some jars. You'll see different size jars. Pint is very common, quart is very common, and we have half pint for some smaller batch things like jams and jellies. Jars can be pretty pricey at the store, and in addition to that, when it's preserving season, a lot of times they'll be out of stock. So start to stock up on some jars for yourself now. I happened to come across some on Facebook Marketplace. Anywhere that you can get them for 50 or 75 cents a jar rather than paying prices at the store, go ahead and do that. Maybe ask around to friends and family. A lot of people have gone through canning phases to start your stockpile. Really, there's no preference as to what size jar. Like I said, jams and jellies are usually best suited for smaller jars. But for instance, the jars I got, a lot of them were quart jars, so I can a lot using quarts. The biggest thing on a jar, they will last forever. What you want to make sure for canning is that there's no chips on the rim, because you really need that lid to create a seal to make sure that it's safe. So jars are number one. Check out for them, yard sales, Facebook Marketplace, friends and family. The last stop would be picking up new ones at the store, and now is a good time of year to do that just to make sure they're in stock. So the second thing you need are canning lids. These will come in either standard mouth or wide mouth, and it'll be dependent on the sizes of the jar that you have. I use these ForJars canning lids. They're great. You order them online, and they're much more affordable than what you can find in your standard box stores. They come in sleeves like this, and I've never had a seal fail, so I highly recommend these. Now, if you're not a canner, you're probably like, well, what about the rims? You only need as many of these as you're going to put in the canner, because the only time these should really be on the jar is when they're in the canner and you're canning them, and when they're cooling off outside of the canner. So you only really need a small number of these. And to be quite honest, if you have too many, like me, they're annoying and they just cause a bunch of clutter. So in the jar category, making sure that you have these lids and just enough of these to put in the canner at one time. So in canning videos, a lot of times you might see a pressure canner or a canner that looks like this, which definitely comes in handy. This was actually from my aunt. All you truly need is a pot that has a lid that goes with it, and that you can get 1.5 inches of water above. This is out of my Instant Pot. It can go on the stovetop, and you can pints and half pints in here. So there's no need to rush out and buy a canner. You can probably use something that you have at home. The final thing I recommend is a trusted source of recipes. Now, if you want some really good entertainment, join Facebook groups pertaining to canning. It is a hot topic, and there is a lot of safety involved with canning. You think you're taking perishable food and having it be able to sit on your shelf. So there is a science and safety components to that, but the debates that go on are pretty wild. So make sure you find a trusted source of canning recipes. I personally like this Ball cookbook. It is well used, well loved. It is like my canning Bible. You can see it's gotten a few spills on it as well. But find a place that works for you, that has recipes that are tried and true, and get started with water bath canning.